Hi, it's Lauren. Welcome back to my craft room. Thanks for joining me for an interactive card today. And it's also day 4 of my 12 Days of Christmas. And today I am featuring one of my favorite brands, Lawn Fawn. If you've been to my channel for a while now, you know how much I love Lawn Fawn. It's one of my favorite stamp companies of all time. I've loved them since before they were releasing these huge releases, and they were only doing a couple sets a month. There was a point where I owned all of the Lawn Fawn, but that was a long time ago. But anyway, I am featuring them today because mostly I have been really enjoying Lawn Fawn's interactive dies. I think they make some of the best interactive dies out there, so easy to use. And my favorite easy to use interactive die is the platform pop-up. I think it is great if you're not very confident in interactive dies because it is such an easy to use die that you can start making interactive dies with just a single stamp set and some paper. So this interactive card is very simple compared to some that I have done in the past because I just want to show that anyone can use this die, and that's why I think Lawn Fawn's interactive dies should be on your wish list. So while I've been doing all of this talking, I have been stamping out some images from the adorable Joy to All clear stamp set. There's also a corresponding lawn cut die cut with this set. I don't have it. And either way, I'm doing some masking, so I would end up having to fussy cut or use my scanning cut anyway. So I don't have the die set, but there is a matching die set. So I'm doing all of my stamping. I'm using my little mini Misty and my smallest Clearly Amazing mat from scrapbook.com to hold my paper in place. And I'm stamping on some alcohol marker friendly cardstock and using some black alcohol marker friendly ink. As always, I have everything listed down in the description if you want to check out what I'm using. So I'm stamping some ornaments in my tree, and after I'm all done with my stamping, I'm going to do some coloring. So I've zoomed in and sped up my coloring just so you can see some really basic coloring. If you want more detailed coloring videos from me, make sure you check out my color and chat playlist. I color at 2 times the speed because I am a slow at coloring, but I don't edit anything out. You see all of my coloring, where in most of these videos, I'm just showing how I colored with one set of colors one time. So I have my greens and my reds, and I'm doing really bold colors, just like this blue here. And all of these markers are Spectrum Noir's Colorista art markers. They are non-refillable, just really easy to use dual tip pens, and they come in a kind of like matching set. And I have those linked down below. They were gifted to me from scrapbook.com, and they're just really easy to grab just to do some really simple coloring. I'm not doing anything that I think is very detailed on this card. Again, I want to show you that it's easy to use and create this card using this platform die set. So I just went with really basic, like two-tone coloring. I get a little bit more detail here with this little girl's hair, but that's just because I use 3 colors. And I've also switched over to my Ohuhu markers. I'm using my skin tones and pastels to color in her hair, as well as her face and the little puppy. Anything in that I'm leaving white, I did use a really pale warm gray just to add a little bit of dimension, so it isn't just a plain white. There's a tiny bit of shadow. So I'm coloring in my little girl's face. I know she looks a little grayed out right now, but the color will kind of even out. You'll see in the final pictures. As I'm finishing up my coloring, I'm going to start talking about the next steps, which is going to be die cutting. Another reason why I love the platform pop-up die is that you can easily use it with 6x6 paper pads, which is what I collect the most of. You don't need a larger, obviously yesterday on my 12 days of Christmas, I did share that I love the 6x8 paper pads from scrapbook.com. So you could definitely use those, but it's great that you could just use a nice 6x6 petite paper pad from Lawn Fawn to do die cutting for this die. So I fussy cut all my images out, put them aside, and let's move on to the platform base. So I'm using very few of the dies from this set. Again, you can spruce up this platform die. There are a lot of add-ons you can get, as well as so many different dies within this set, but I wanted just to create a nice basic platform base for my card. I went with really bold colors for my coloring, so I want to go with a more muted base, so there's a nice contrast and it's not too bold or too light in one direction. I wanted a nice balance. So I grabbed the Let It Shine Snowflake Petite paper pack and I pulled out the two white backgrounds with the silver foiled snowflakes on them, and I'm going to cut out two of these bases. You need two to create the platform pop-up die. So using my magic mat and my black P6 machine, I'm going to die cut both of these bases out. So I have one, and then I'm going to skip over to my second one here. And this is when I realized that I accidentally cut through two pieces of paper. And at first I was kind of sad because I hate wasting paper. But you know what? I'll just make another platform card with that light white snowflake background another time. I wanted to make sure that my snowflake paper didn't have any ripping or tearing because I went through two pieces of paper, which can cause a little bit of extra pressure there, but it turned out okay. So I'm going to use my scrap here to try to die cut out as much as possible because I don't like to waste paper. And I'm going to die cut the three T pieces, three hill pieces, and two of those rectangle kind of tag looking pieces. That's where I'm going to stamp my sentiment. So now I'm going to start putting the base together. So I'm going to show you how to put together one because it's the same thing twice, and I'm just folding on all the score lines and making sure that they are easy to maneuver once I start gluing and adhering this base together. I'm also going to grab one of the little T's. There is a score line as well, and I'm going to grab one of those and one of the bases, and I'm going to be using 1/4 of an inch um, adhesive tape. So I grabbed my 1/8 of an inch because I knew I needed that for the little hills, but I need my 1/4 inch for everything else. So before I get too far into assembling the base, I remember that I want to stamp my sentiment so I can have my little tags here ready to go to adhere. So I'm adding some adhesive behind one of them. That's going to be where someone could sign their name. It's going to be on the back of my platform. And the one that will be in the front will have a sentiment from the stamp set. I decided to go with Joy to All, Happy Holidays, and a little heart. So I'm going to grab my Misty again, and I'm going to use my Clearly Amazing mat just to keep that paper in place. And I'm going to line up all of my sentiments. I'm sorry you can see up my nose a little and the top of my head, but I wanted to make sure they were nice and centered onto my little piece of paper here. Now, why I didn't use my grid mat to its fullest capability by centering it, I don't know, but it works out fine. I'm using VersaFine and Onyx Black to stamp my sentiment, and then I'm going to add adhesive behind that one as well. Now VersaFine does stay a little wet, it doesn't dry right away, which makes it a great ink for embossing. So I'm going to add this adhesive very carefully so I don't smear my sentiment all over my glass mat. Once those are done, let's start building. So I have everything kind of scored and ready to go. I'm grabbing one of my tees and I'm placing it inside the slot. And I want to make sure that it is centered as possible. It's not that big of a deal if it's slightly off-centered. Lawn Fawn designed this die with plenty of wiggle room. But I am going to add some adhesive to where that T is going to touch the inside of the platform base just on that little tiny scored flap. And I'm going to fold it and adhere the flap down to the inside of the platform. So you can see just one little step up. I'm going to add adhesive to another flap, pull off the release paper, and I'm just going to stair step that up one and adhere closed. Now, Lawn Fawn obviously has really great videos of how to use all of their dyes. If you haven't used it before, I would definitely recommend checking out their channel. Their intro to any type of product goes through every step. They're really great, so bookmark them. But I will tell you, I promise you, after you build this platform once, you're going to realize how easy it is and you'll want to make all the platform dyes. So once I have the two sides together, I have my third T that I thought I lost, but it was just stuck inside my die. And I'm going to cut off the flap that I scored to create the T's inside of my base because I don't need that flap. It's not going to be attached to anything on the bottom. It's going to be sandwiched in between these two platform bases. So I'm just going to adhere this down to the center of one of my platform bases. So I'm going to use my grid mat so that way I can get it as centered as possible. And again, there's always a little bit of wiggle room. It's not the end of the world if it's not completely centered. And now we're going to glue the two halves together. So grabbing that 1/4 inch, I'm going to add some adhesive to one of the side flaps on my base, and then I'm going to line up the other side and glue those together. I'm trying to butt them perfectly against each other. And then it will wrap around and close up our base. So in order to make sure it's nice and snug and nothing's going to move or make me sad, I'm just adding a couple pieces of foam, or not foam, of tape adhesive on the inside of the base and then also on the flap on the other side. So I'm going to peel off all my release paper and I'm going to carefully sandwich these two base pieces together, and that will have that T in the middle. And then I will close up my base. And you can see here how easy that was. Everything moves nicely. I'll go ahead and adhere my front sentiment little tag here to the front of my platform, just centering it on that large panel. And with that, the base is done. So let's start decorating it. I have these 3 little hill pieces from the set. These are optional. You definitely don't have to use these. I think it helps with having more stability when you're gluing images or die cuts to the platform. So I think they're really beneficial, but you could glue directly to those little top of the T pieces that are showing on the base. So I'm going to glue my images to these base pieces before adding them. I just think it's a little easier to be able to adhere things when they're flat on my mat rather than trying to work with the platform. So I'm going to start with gluing my tree to one of the little hills, and this is going to be on the furthest back of my 3 little hill T pieces. So I'm just using some wet glue and adhering my tree to that first one. And I added that 1/8 of an inch adhesive to the bottom back of all of these pieces. So I peeled off the release paper and I'm adhering it to the back top part of the T. That will be in the background, our lovely tree. Next, I'm going to take my presents and my little stocking and I'm going to arrange them in a cute little way towards the edges of that second hill. And then I'm going to peel off the release paper from that and add it to my base. Now, I would recommend using tweezers if you're having a hard time because it is a really tiny 1/8 of an inch, thick T piece in there. So use tweezers if you need to. I'm gonna put my cute little girl and her puppy with the little treat in his dog bowl onto the front piece, I guess you could say, the front panel. Before I do that, I realized I didn't put my candy cane inside my stocking, so putting that in real quick. And then I will pull off the release paper behind my front set of images and adhere that to the front. So it gives a really nice kind of perspective of the little girl with her puppy, and then we have the presents behind them that are sitting in front of the tree. And that will finish off the card. I told you it was going to be really simple. I didn't even do any major highlighting or coloring. I just wanted to show you how great this die is. I just love Lawn Fawn's products. They all work so well together. I love that you can take images from multiple sets and make really fancy cards. And also you could just make something that is more simple and still incredibly adorable and fun because it is interactive. I hope this inspires you to add some goodies to your Christmas wish list. You can see all of my 12 days of Christmas so far by using the links down below in my description. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!